Have you ever thought about why a cup of coffee costs what it does, or how businesses decide what to produce? Welcome to the intriguing world of microeconomics, a fascinating realm where we decode the mysteries of the marketplace and the economic decisions that shape our daily lives. Microeconomics, at its core, is the study of how individuals, households, and firms make decisions to allocate limited resources. It's about understanding the choices we make and the consequences of those choices. From choosing between a latte or a cappuccino to a corporation deciding how many units of a product to manufacture, microeconomics is at play. Unlike its sibling, macroeconomics, which looks at the economy as a whole, microeconomics zooms into the individual units within the economy. It peers into households, peeks into firms, and investigates industries. It's like a microscope for the economy, bringing the tiny yet significant details into focus. You see, microeconomics is not just about money or business, it's about life. It's about understanding why things cost what they do, why we pay the prices we pay, and how those prices affect our behavior. It's about supply and demand, elasticity, and consumer behavior. It's about the economics of everyday life. So why should you care about microeconomics? Well, because it's everywhere. It's in the prices you pay at the grocery store, it's in the salary you earn, it's even in the rent you pay for your apartment, it's in the choices you make and the consequences you face. It's in the way businesses operate and the way markets function. As we embark on this journey through the world of microeconomics, we'll explore how it helps us understand the world around us, how it influences our decisions, and how it shapes our society. We'll delve into the heart of the marketplace, unravel the intricacies of economic behavior, and reveal the unseen forces that govern our economic lives. As we delve deeper, you'll discover how microeconomics touches nearly every aspect of our lives. So, buckle up, and let's dive into this fascinating world of microeconomics. At the heart of microeconomics lie a few key concepts that help us understand the economic world around us. First up, we have supply and demand. Picture this. You're in a bustling marketplace and you're selling apples. The price you set and how many apples you sell depends on two things. How many apples you have to sell, that's your supply, and how many people want to buy your apples, that's the demand. If you have lots of apples but not many buyers, you might lower your price to entice more people to buy. On the other hand, if there's a crowd clamoring for your apples but you only have a few to sell, you might raise your price. That's supply and demand in a nutshell. Next, we have elasticity. This isn't about how stretchy your apples are, but rather how much the demand for them changes in response to a change in price. If a small change in price leads to a large change in demand, we'd say the demand for your apples is elastic. If a large change in price leads to only a small change in demand, then it's inelastic. This concept is crucial to understanding how consumers react to price changes and how businesses set their prices. Lastly, let's talk about marginal utility. Imagine you're really thirsty and you buy that first bottle of water. It tastes amazing, right? That's because the utility or satisfaction you get from that first bottle is high. But what about the second bottle or the third? Each additional bottle you drink provides less satisfaction than the previous one. This decrease in satisfaction is what we call diminishing marginal utility. So there you have it. Supply and demand, elasticity, and marginal utility. These are the pillars of microeconomics that help us make sense of how individuals and businesses make decisions about what to buy, what to sell, and at what price. With these key concepts in hand, we can begin to unravel the mysteries of the economic decisions we encounter daily. Ever wondered why prices fluctuate? The law of supply and demand has a lot to do with it. Imagine an open marketplace bustling with vendors and shoppers. The vendors want to sell their products at the highest possible price, while the shoppers want to buy them at the lowest. This tug of war creates a balance known as the equilibrium price, which is where the law of supply and demand comes into play. Let's start with demand. Demand refers to the quantity of a product that consumers are willing and able to purchase at different prices. When the price of a product drops, consumers tend to buy more of it. Conversely, if the price climbs, consumers may buy less. This relationship is represented by a downward sloping demand curve on our mind map. Now, let's consider supply. Supply refers to the quantity of a product that producers are willing and able to sell at various prices. Unlike demand, the relationship between price and supply is positive. This means that as the price of a product increases, producers are more inclined to sell more of it. and if the price drops, they may sell less. This is depicted by an upward-sloping supply curve on our mind map. These two curves intersect at a point known as the market equilibrium, where the quantity demanded equals the quantity supplied. Any change in either supply or demand will shift the equilibrium, causing the price and quantity in the market to adjust accordingly. For instance, if a natural disaster reduces the supply of a commodity, the supply curve shifts to the left, driving the price up. On the other hand, if there's a surge in demand for a product due to a new trend, the demand curve shifts to the right, and again, the price rises. So you see, the law of supply and demand is a fundamental principle that governs the workings of any market. It's like a dance, with prices and quantities moving in response to the rhythm of supply and demand. Understanding supply and demand empowers us to make sense of price changes in the market. What happens when the price of your favorite chocolate bar increases? Will you still buy it? This question brings us to the concept of elasticity, an integral part of microeconomics. Elasticity is a measure of responsiveness. It tells us how much the quantity demanded or supplied of a good changes when there's a change in price. To put it simply, it's all about how stretchy the demand or supply curve is. Let's picture a mind map. In the center we have elasticity. Branching off from there, we have two main limbs: price elasticity of demand and price elasticity of supply. Price elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of a good changes in response to a change in price. If the price of your favorite chocolate bar increases and you decide to buy less of it, or perhaps none at all, then your demand is elastic. On the other hand, if the price increases and you still buy the same amount, then your demand is inelastic. You're not very responsive to price changes, maybe because you just love that chocolate bar too much. Now, let's move to the other branch of our mind map: price elasticity of supply. This measures how much the quantity supplied of a good changes in response to a change in price. If the price of cocoa, the main ingredient in chocolate, decreases and chocolate manufacturers decide to produce less chocolate as a result, then the supply is elastic. But if manufacturers continue to produce the same amount of chocolate, despite the decrease in price of cocoa, then the supply is inelastic. The manufacturers are not very responsive to price changes, maybe because they have a lot of cocoa in stock or because they have contracts to supply a certain amount of chocolate. In both cases, whether we're talking about consumers or producers, elasticity gives us a way to measure and predict behavior in response to price changes. Elasticity helps us predict how changes in price will affect our buying and selling decisions. It's a tool that helps us understand the economic world a little bit better. Have you ever noticed how the first bite of a pizza is usually the best, and each subsequent bite seems a little less exciting? This is the perfect analogy to understand the economic concept of marginal utility. Let's use a mind map to break it down. Picture a circle in the center of your mind labeled marginal utility. This is the additional satisfaction or utility that a consumer gains from consuming one more unit of a good or service. Now, imagine lines radiating from that central circle, leading to smaller circles. Each of these represents an aspect of marginal utility. For instance, one circle might be labeled first slice of pizza. It represents the high level of satisfaction you get from that initial bite. Another circle might be labeled second slice. Here, the satisfaction is still there, but it's slightly less than the first slice. This illustrates the law of diminishing marginal utility, which states that as a person increases consumption of a product, while keeping consumption of other products constant, there is a decline in the marginal utility derived from each additional unit consumed. Another circle might be labeled price. If the price of an extra slice of pizza is more than the satisfaction you'll get from eating it, you'll probably decide not to buy it. This shows how marginal utility can influence our buying decisions. Yet another circle could be labeled income. If your income rises, you might be willing to pay for that extra slice, even if the satisfaction you'll get from it is less than the price. This demonstrates how marginal utility is affected by income changes. By connecting these circles and concepts, we form a comprehensive picture of how marginal utility works. It's a fundamental principle that helps us understand consumer behavior, guiding us to make informed predictions about how people will respond to changes in price, income, and other factors. Marginal utility explains why we derive less satisfaction from consuming additional units of a good or service. Microeconomics is more than just a subject. It's a lens through which we can view and understand the world around us. It's about understanding the core concepts that dictate supply and demand, appreciating the elasticity that measures responsiveness, and realizing the joy of one more through marginal utility. These concepts are not just theories, they are the very fabric that weaves our economic existence. With these insights, you're now better equipped to make sense of the economic decisions that shape our everyday lives.